Alright.
We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome, baseball coaches, parents, players. Welcome to this week's get-together on the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass, where our goal is to become effective and efficient coaches, to go from new coaches to good coaches, or from good coaches to great coaches as efficiently as possible. I hope everybody's summer is going great and has been going great. This episode, a little shorter than most, but there are three great parts, three great things we're going to talk about. First, pitchers in between pitch routine, then a tip to minimize freebie runs that we give the other team, and a tip for working with parents, dealing with parents, and really boosting the overall team morale vibe around the team and the team's parents. So we'll dive into that in just a second. If you have not already, go over to 8020baseball.com. Get the drill design guide there. It's a free 21-page PDF. You just plug your email in there. You're not going to get spammed or anything. I'm the only one who handles that stuff. You get that drill design guide sent to you right away. It breaks down all the parts to designing a great drill. It's definitely worth the 15 to 20 minute read. There's quite a few tips in there, examples of things that you can use also. That's right there on the homepage at 8020baseball.com. If you wouldn't mind just pausing this and leaving a review or sharing this podcast with a friend, that's the best way to support this podcast, to keep it rolling. And it helps, I think, to make the baseball community a better place. So we're all lined up to bring you a great interview next week with one of the wisest people I know when it comes to understanding kids, understanding teams, how to be a coach, understanding how to run a sports program. This is somebody who hires and fires coaches at his day job, during his day job. The goal is to bring you that next week, so stay tuned. All right, this week, we're going to start off by talking pitchers in between pitch routine. I'm going to come out right away and say, I think the biggest reason or the best reason or the number one reason for pitchers to have an in-between pitch routine is to keep their mind, their focus on something productive, such as the breath, rather than letting the mind float around and stray off on negative thoughts, self-defeating thoughts, etc. I recommend every pitcher have an in-between pitch routine that involves a solid breath. It doesn't have to be a 10-second breath, like 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. 3 to 5 seconds should suffice. I recommend players take a few seconds in between every pitch right before they start their delivery to zoom in their eyes, the focus of their eyes, to look directly and clearly at the target, and add a layer to that to visualize the pitch hitting the target, hitting the catcher's glove. Visualize making that successful pitch. Another part of the routine that could be used following, say, a perceived bad call. Maybe the umpire called the last pitch a ball. The pitcher thought it should have been called a strike. Or if somebody makes an error on defense or a wild pitch, I recommend pitchers have a way to release and throw away that last play to physically kind of reset their mind, such as swiping the rubber, cleaning off the rubber, almost as a reset to send a message to the mind, hey, we're sweeping that off. We're putting that in the past. Maybe picking up a leaf, throwing the leaf, picking up some grass, throwing the grass away, and releasing that bad call, that bad pitch, the bad play on defense. If there's a rosin bag, pick that up and throw it down and release. And I recommend pitchers incorporate some positive messaging, some positive dialogue. For example, something as simple as, I dare you to hit this. I know that sounds maybe silly, but the positive visualization, the positive self-messages, the breath, the releasing of a bad play, the releasing of a bad call, a bad pitch, all of this can be part of a very beneficial and helpful in-between pitch routine. Or on the flip side, you could just have the pitcher catch the ball and use the 5, 10, 15 seconds between pitches to give those negative thoughts time to wedge their way into the mind, to the pitcher's mindset. So an idle mind is not a great place for an athlete. Now, it shouldn't be overstirred. The mind should not be in fifth gear at all times, especially before making a pitch. But an idle mind is a playground for negative thoughts and self-doubt. So by having a routine, pitchers can keep their mindset, their room of thoughts occupied, along with adding some productive, positive parts to it. So email me your thoughts. Email me if you have any questions on that or any additional thoughts on that. I'd love to hear things that your pitchers have used that have helped them. All right, now, speaking of pitching, legendary coach Skip Bertman brought Coach Bertman up in a recent episode. Legendary coach from LSU. He was a pitching coach by trade, and he had this comment about calling pitches, whether it was him calling pitches or if the catcher was calling the game. He said, quote, "I was always a fastball down the middle guy when the hitter was hitting a $167 or 204. Go right after the guy. You don't need your knuckle Vulcan death grip pitch for this one. Just challenge the guy." End quote. This is gold. These are some good principles to have to coach up your players, coach up your pitchers with, your catchers with, or you yourself if you're calling pitches. This is a nice default setting to have when it comes to calling pitches. You got a hitter up there that looks like they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat in the middle of the lake. They're batting under 200 or around 200. They haven't shown to be able to do anything with the ball. They've shown maybe no power. They're a very minimal threat at the plate. Don't get fancy. As Coach Bertman said, you don't need your knuckle Vulcan death grip pitch. Just challenge the guy. In other words, throw the fastball right down the middle every pitch. That's a great tip because sometimes I think we, as coaches, our pitchers, our catchers, they don't identify, especially when you get to levels where pitchers are throwing off-speed pitches or they're locating their fastball in and out or up and not just down the middle. The first thing we should ask ourselves is this hitter struggling? Is this hitter not proven themselves yet to warrant getting cute with a pitch? In that case, right down the middle with the fastball and go from there. That was a quick, but I think really useful tip for all levels, but especially once you get into that junior high age and above. All right, we're going to wrap up with a tip for dealing with parents. So one of the biggest problems that coaches encounter is the eroding of trust from player to coach, the second guessing, or a reduction in player buy-in or coachability. And sometimes often that can stem from conversations the parents are having with that player, from things that player's parents are saying to them on the ride home from practice, on the ride home from a game, at the dinner table. I've coached a handful of players in which this has happened. The parents are in their ear saying negative things about the coach or the coaching staff. They're questioning the coach. They're undermining the coach's authority. They're essentially reducing the player's coachability, their buy-in, and it erodes the trust that player might have had or could have with the coach and coaching staff. It's not a good place to be. Essentially, you have a player who's not going to listen to you. You have a player that's going to second guess you. You have a player that may take that message and share it with his teammates. So negative messages coming from the parents to their kid off the field that pretty much impact everything revolving around that kid at practice and at the games. Sometimes this is subtle. Sometimes the players will still say, yes, sir. Oh, yeah. They'll still act like they're buying in, but they're not. They've been told, hey, don't listen to your coach. Don't listen to what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Your coach doesn't know anything about baseball. Or even worse, your coach is an idiot. He's a moron. Listen to me. Listen to this other coach. Listen to your hitting coach and don't listen to them. And then if it gets really bad, that player then sits around with their teammates at school or even in the dugout and starts to undermine your authority, starts to plant seeds of doubt amongst teammates. Just not a good place to be. This is very common. Usually it's not team-wide, but it's very common to have at least one set or a few sets of parents doing this or a parent doing this with their kid. And it's hard to know what's going on because you don't see it, because you don't hear it. It goes on behind closed doors. But the effect is huge when it comes to the practices and games, at least for that player. So here's a tip for dealing with this. And I want you to hear me out on this. At the preseason meeting that you have with your team. Now, this could be before practice or after the first practice. Ideally, you have a meeting before the first day of practice. But worst case, you can say, parents, I need you to stick around for 30 minutes after the first practice. Or you say after the first practice, let's go get pizza together and have our meeting then. So you can tie in dinner, the meeting with practice, and go from there. And maybe you call ahead and have those pizzas ready or have a parent take care of it. One of the parents have those pizzas ordered before. So when you get there, the pizzas are ready, you start eating, and then you can get right into your discussion. And if players and parents want to, need to get somewhere, need to get home, they can be there for less than an hour, 30 or 45 minutes, and get on with their evening. I think it's important that parents and players both hear this message. So if you do it after practice, that kids will likely wander off and start playing. They'll go over to the playground. They'll start doing things, pickle and other things off by themselves. It's vital, in my opinion, that the players and the parents are there together so the players can also hear this message. You have your meeting. You talk about your expectations. You talk about your goals for the team, give a quick synopsis of how you plan on running the team, what practices are going to look like, playing time, expectations, and then be sure to add a message about this. Let the parents know, and do this in front of the players. Let the parents know that before they say anything negative about, you could say about me or the rest of the coaches or the coaching staff, before they say anything negative about the coaching staff or the coaching decisions or coaching strategies or coaching methods, before they say anything negative to their kid, to the players, about the coaches, let them know that we should first discuss it together, coach, parent, and even player, especially if the player is older. And then ask for a verbal or even written agreement on that. Just a verbal, hey, do we all agree on that? Do we all agree to this? Your message could be something like this. And I wouldn't dive right into this. I would start off with the goals, excitement for the season, some expectations, and then I would clearly and concisely deliver this message. Say, parents, I know sometimes you might not agree with some of our coaching strategies. You might not completely agree with playing time or how much your kid is playing at a certain position or not. And I understand that. We know these are things that can be sensitive. We know these are things that come up. I understand that not everybody's going to see eye to eye on everything, and that's okay. But I think it's important that we see eye to eye on this and that we are a team. The parents and the coaching staff and the players, we're all one team. We're all on the same side. We're all working together, side by side, going the same direction together. And a part of this is how we talk about each other when we're not around. So parents, it's vital that you don't say negative things or things that could be perceived as negative that might undermine us as coaches. We're having discussions that could very likely undermine us as coaches who are here trying to help your kid, help all the kids do really well and be their best. It's important that before you share those negative thoughts or say those negative things about us or things that might be perceived as negative or things that call into question our coaching ability and strategies and methods, it's vital that you first reach out and discuss those. At a minimum, at least get our side of it. Get our thoughts on it or share it with us first. So at least we can be on the same page and ideally come to an agreement, a compromise, or a solution before it turns into a venting session with your kid. Let's let the kids have fun. Let's let them focus on having fun and playing baseball. And let's keep the unnecessary negativity away from the great season we're going to have when it comes to having fun, the enjoyment of being around each other, and winning our fair share of games along the way. So I ask this, are we in agreement that parents, we're not going to say negative things about the coaches behind our backs, that we're going to discuss things, we're going to be open about things. And if you have a frustration, you're going to reach out, email, text, or call, or a meeting, and we're going to discuss things with the aim of creating win-win outcomes. Can we all agree upon that? Raise your hand if you're in agreement with that. That would be a message that you could have. You could tinker with that to fit it, but there's some key parts there. I would call the elephant out in the room that, hey, this isn't anything new to youth sports. I like the idea of saying it in front of the players. So the fact that the parents know that the players have heard the coach kindly ask that they not talk negative about them, there's a little more incentive for the parents to hold up their end of the bargain with regard to respect and trust and things like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Email me your thoughts on this and strategies you've used to minimize and even ideally eliminate some of these negative comments and conversations that go on off the field about the coaching staff that are never beneficial and really don't benefit anyone. At the end of the day, it's almost guaranteed to be a lose-lose outcome if that path is taken. And unfortunately, it is taken a lot. So I think as coaches, we need to be proactive before the season starts. Call the elephant out in the room that this does happen. Now, of course, this doesn't happen with every parent, probably the minority of parents, but all it takes is a couple to really erode the positive vibe, positive team culture, or at least as a coach, could very likely cost you the buy-in of a couple of your players, which is a big deal when you only have a dozen or so players. And I would ask for them to commit to it by raising their hand. So at least they're on a kind of an informal record of saying, yeah, I hear you. I agree to that. It's a touchy subject, but It's much better to head it off at the pass rather than wait till the downslope where it can turn into an avalanche and get out of hand. So I would be proactive with it. We can be upfront about it, cordial about it, and go from there. I just highly recommend this, especially in youth sports. So to recap, pitchers in-between pitch routine. I gave you 4 things that we could have as part of an in-between pitch routine. There was a tip from the legendary coach Skip Bertman to identify hitters that are struggling and to go right after them right away with the fastball down the middle early and often. And a tip that can hopefully help cut off behind-the-scenes negativity with your team, with your players, and the parents of those players. All right. I always enjoy being here with all of you, and I really like hearing from you. So reach out, Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com. That's B-O, Bo as in Bo Jackson. Like I like to say, the American athlete version of Bo, not the French soap opera version. Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com. And until next week, let's take care of our health so we can be at our best for our families, our close friends, our players, our team. Take this information and go put it into play. Y'all take care, and until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.